The Vanguard was first exhibited to the public at the Brussels Motor Show in February 1948. It began to come off the assembly lines in the middle of 1948, but all production was allotted to the export trade. An estate car and a utility pickup version were announced in September, and then a 1200-weight delivery van. Aprons were fitted over the Vanguard's rear wheels from September 1949. In 1950, the Vanguard and the Triumph Renown were the first cars to be fitted with a Laycock de Normanville Overdrive. The Laycock Overdrive operated on the second and third gears of the 3-speed transmission, creating, in effect, a 5-speed gearbox. In Scandinavia, Standard marketed the Standard 10 Saloon as the Vanguard Junior. The car was announced in July 1947, was completely new, with no resemblance to the previous models, and, designed in 1945, it was Standard's first post-World War II car and intended for export around the world. It was also the first model to carry the new Standard badge, which was a heavily stylized representation of the wings of a griffin. Chassis and running gear. The car used a conventional chassis on which was mounted the slab-sided body. Suspension was independent at the front with coil springs, and a live axle and leaf springs at the rear. Front and rear anti-roll bars were fitted. The brakes were cable-driven with 9-inch, 228mm, drums all round, and to make the most of the interior space a column gear change was used initially on the right of the steering wheel, then later on the left. Engine. The Standard Wet-Liner inline-4 engine was an inline 4-cylinder petrol engine produced by the Standard Motor Company. Originally developed concurrently for passenger car use and for the Ferguson TE20 tractor, it was widely used for standard passenger cars of the 1950s, most notably the Vanguard. Later it was successfully used in Standard's popular early-generation Triumph TR Series sports cars. Transmission. At first, the transmission included a 3-speed gearbox with synchromesh on all forward ratios, controlled using a column-mounted lever. The option of Laycock de Normanville Overdrive was announced at the end of 1949 and became available in June 1950. Laycock overdrives were cable-operated on top gear until 1954 when an electric solenoid was added. Road test data. A car tested by the Motor Magazine in 1949 had a top speed of 78.7 miles per hour, 126.7 kilometers per hour, and could accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour, 97 kilometers per hour, in 21.5 seconds. A fuel consumption of 22.9 miles per imperial gallon, 12.3 L, 100 kilometers, 19.1 mpg/US, was recorded. The same wet-liner engine was used throughout the range until the advent of the 6 model in 1960, and was an overhead valve unit of 85 mm, 3.3 in bore and 92 mm, 3.6 in stroke with single Solex downdraft carburetor. The compression ratio was 6.7:1. Wet cylinder liners were fitted. The engine was essentially the same as that made by Standard for the Ferguson TE20 tractor, with some changes for automobile use.